And so, Robbie, my first question for you is, as I am talking to you at an incredibly late hour, East Coast time of the United States, what time is it where you are right now?
Well, I'm in Brisbane, Australia at the moment. It's 2:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday. So a decent time for me rather than for you 11:30 at night, but it's great to be here talking to you.
Thank you for being the first one in the barn for the education on the OFC Pro League. What is it like for you and everyone that is attached to the league, whether you're a player, administrator, front office, whatever? What's it like to be at this point where you're a week and a half from starting it for real?
I don't know whether it's panic stations yet, but I think it's been an exciting time for everybody. I mean, obviously, the league was announced earlier this year. The teams were only finalised in September last year, 2025. So it's been a lot of work by a lot of clubs. I mean, obviously, our club, the Solomon Kings, which is a partnership between Wynnum Wolves and Brisbane and the Solomon Islands Federation, been very, very, very hectic. I think the challenging part, you're trying to create a club in a short space of time. And so it's been very hectic. It's been exciting. I think the exciting part, the players are here in Brisbane in a camp now, ready to go to New Zealand next week for the first game. So players got onto the training field reel. Prior to that, it was all administration, it was all paperwork. But I think across the board, there's an excitement, in particular, I think, in the islands, in the Pacific Islands, where, I mean, this is the first professional competition in the Oceanic region. And, from the Solomon Islands team, the Solomon Kings is the very first professional sporting team. No other sport's done it. So it's an exciting time for the country, exciting time for football. But I think for the whole region, everyone's excited about what it's going to look like because there's something new. And there's no home and away games. We're in hubs, and which will be an interesting time to have.
And you mentioned the 8 franchises. Just for the record, it's Auckland FC, it's Bula, which is based in Fiji, PNG Hikari FC, which is in Papua New Guinea, Solomon Kings, Tahiti United, Vanuatu United, South Island United in New Zealand, and South Melbourne FC. And you mentioned the hubs. And obviously, when we're talking about Solomon specifically, it's not like you can hop in an Uber from where you are and go to the stadium and have a home and away with somebody. It's like you can't have a home and away with PNG Hikari in the Solomon Islands. And so the hub idea, I think, adds audience to it, and it adds interest from other places in addition to those initial franchise locations.
I think so. Look, I think the thing, you've got to give it to the OFC and FIFA for backing this, because otherwise, without their support, this wouldn't have happened. So I think logistically, from stadium facilities to the travel component, the hub idea has a lot of merit. And, obviously for the Solomons team, we started training in Solomon Islands prior to Christmas. We arrived here in Australia just after Christmas for New Year to base ourselves in a camp here, because it's quicker to go to Brisbane to Auckland than it is from Solomon Islands. So from the Solomons team is that the players won't go back home till February. So we will go to Auckland next week. They'll come back to Brisbane for a couple of days, train, then get on a plane and go to PNG for 2 weeks, come back to Brisbane for 2 weeks, go to Melbourne for 2 weeks, and then they'll fly back to Solomon Islands. So it's not only just about for the players adapting to professional life, it's the travel component. And I suppose it's, from the coaches and the club's perspective, is to make it as much as family orientated for the players who are really just living out of a suitcase for such a period of time. I mean, it's a little bit different for the New Zealand teams. It's easy it's more for the island team, in particular, a team like Solomon Islands. Logistically, the travel component is it's not.
No. What has it been like for player interest? Because I would imagine that you, across the board, need a specific kind of individual who understands the demands of the travel component, understands the demands of what it's like to be something from absolute zero, and you have to be you have to have a special kind of constitution, both athletically and emotionally, to get into something like this and understand its gravity, I would think.
Yeah, look, I think that the part is obviously from the Solomon Islands. A lot of the players have had experience offshore to come and play in Australia or in New Zealand. I think the hard part has been once the players have got over, the first day is like being a kid's inside a lolly shop. It's all excitement. What can I do? And now we're sort of 2 weeks into a camp and it's like saying, oh, right, okay, now we're going to do this every day. So a lot of the time the coaches have been working to make sure the players have an intensive training session, have their downtime. The meal components have been an important part. I think it's been good for the teams like from the Solomon Islands to be here. I think it's the 2-week camp here in Australia has allowed them to be bond together because they're going into camp, and we're ready for it. Where other teams aren't in camps, they're working out of their own countries. We made a decision that we'll bring them here to Brisbane to train in facilities and bring the team together. But look, from the players' perspective, I think they're excited, especially for the Solomon Island players. This is, to be the first professional team in your country is a big honour. For these players, they're starting to earn money, which is unheard of, So I think as much as it is for the football excitement, it's more about, down the track, I'm the first player to play professional football in the Solomon Islands. So I think it's a challenge. I think as we get to the first hub, to play 3 games in 10 days, it's a big ask for the squad. Then you're coming back, then you've got to go to PNG, which is, again, different weather conditions. So, look, I think it's been all-encompassing from the coaching staff. A lot of it's been, as much as been on the field, it's off the field management. I mean, I know tomorrow, for example, we've got a big day out for them, the leisure out to one of the islands. They're going to go through a cultural day with our Indigenous friends. They've got going to go to the ocean, go to some cultural centres, taste some exotic foods. I think we're trying to make it into as much as a football experience, but it's a cultural experience.
I've been trying to get as educated as possible in all of these things as you're getting right up with the league. What's it like to have not just the head of a football federation come and visit you there, but then you end up with Prime Minister Masele come and kind of see what's going on? What's it like to have that kind of a dignitary come, because he knows how important it is in the grand scheme of things as well?
I think when I went to the Solomon Islands back in July when we first met the Prime Minister, and what was supposed to be a half-hour meeting ended up being an hour-and-a-half meeting, I think we sometimes underestimate the power of sport. And I think sometimes we, like in America and Australia, we take it for granted that, sport's around. I think the impact this team will have off the field is far greater than anyone else will benefit, because this is life-changing for those kids. It's giving the kids in the Solomon Islands the hope and the vision that they're going to play at that highest level. So I think it's, and for the Prime Minister, it's been a significant part of the changes that's going to happen. And he understands, the young kids in the Solomon Islands to aspire to play professional sport. I mean, football's the number one sport in the Solomon Islands, and having a team there is only going to improve every year. And ultimately, what it's going to lead is World Cup qualifications for the country. Under 17s, the under 23s, first team. I mean, the goal for the club, our partnership with the Federation, is for the Solomon Islands to qualify in 2034 for the World Cup. That's our goal. If we get this right, and I know we will, off the field, work technically, improve both on and off the field, there is no reason why the Solomon Islands can't qualify for a World Cup within 8 years.
And we have covered the Marshall Islands quest as well. The Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, we've been in lockstep with them ever since they tried to. They announced that they were going to be trying to go down this same road. When it comes to, I guess, Oceania in general, obviously you have the Pro League coming online, but where would you say the game is right now when it comes to infrastructure, ability, number of athletes? Where is Oceania right now in the world sphere, do you think? Where does the work need to go?
I think there's no doubt infrastructure is a key component. And we're lucky in the Solomon Islands that we've got a national sports centre that was built for the Oceanic Games a number of years ago. So they've got the facilities there. I think there are other countries that need more infrastructure. I think the biggest thing for the improvement of the game is going to be the technical improvement, and that is improving coaches and administration. I think technically, the players are there. It's just providing with the right coaching, the right structure off the field. We're lucky in the Solomons that we've got the facilities. Obviously, we need more facilities, but at the start, you appreciate what you've got. But I think the biggest impact out of this, of having a professional team, is the impact on coaches, to upskill the coaches, to make sure that the 10-year-old today is getting the right coaching to make him ready for an under 17s, under 18s. And I think that's what we're going to see. But overall, I think from a player perspective, technically, very highly regarded. I think it's more, they've got the skills. It's having that football, understanding the game more technically from a coach perspective. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing we'll have.
How much of a learning experience has it been for you and everybody there at Wynnum Wolves to embrace the idea, to understand that Solomon is going to be there as a part of this fabric of this thing going forward? How much of a learning experience has it been for you dealing with the idea of the Solomon Kings?
Look, I think our club's had a history with the Solomon Islands up to 30 years ago. It's really interesting how this all came about. After the coup, I think in the early 2000s, late 90s, Solomon Football went out to around Australia saying, does any team want to come to play us? And Wynnum Wolves was the team to put their hand up and said, we would like to come. And that's how the relationship first started. And over the years, we've had hosted players, but it sort of fell off during COVID and before COVID. But I think when the idea was that there was going to be an Oceanic Pro League, we looked at it, would Wynnum Wolves enter a team on its own, like South Melbourne? And we looked at it and looked at the pros and cons and thought, well, the pros, why don't we partner with the nation and work through it? And really for Solomon Islands was an easy fit for us because of our previous relationship. I think the learning has been is we assumed they didn't have infrastructure. First thing to do. But when you go there and see the facilities, you've got facilities. I think what it does, it actually brought the love of football back for a number of us, because when we went there, football's the number one sport. So you actually, when they say, what does it mean for these kids to play football, which is far greater than other places? And, thinking we take things for granted in Australia. We take our infrastructure, we take our facilities, we take our coaching, we take everything for granted. But when you go there and see what little some of these players have or teams have, and the enjoyment they get out of it, we can make a difference. And I think what it does, it brings humility. It also teaches you the power of our game. And I think that's really what it was for us. And, we main values as the Solomon Islands Football Federation and the country itself. So it was an easy link because we get on and we're, both have the similar values and what we want to do in the game.
Is there an expectation on the field in year one when it comes to Solomon Kings, or is it let's go ahead and have patience and just see where it goes? Is there an on-the-field expectation?
Well, I think everyone who plays sport wants to win, and I think everyone wants to say we want to make the top four, because that's the goal. That's what you play sport for. I think what we want to be able to do is be competitive, give ourselves the opportunity to be in that winning position. And I think once you give yourself the opportunity, who knows what happens. I think what we can do is provide the experience as much off the field. We can't control what happens on the field. That's players and other things. But I think we can provide everything off the field to give the team the best opportunity to be competitive and win. We've done our job. I think we just want to be competitive, that the country can be proud of the team, win, lose, or draw.
Rabieh Krayem hanging out with us. He's the president of Wynnum Wolves. Also, how would you best describe your role with Solomon Kings with the OFC Pro League? Grand Exalted Poobah.
Well,
how would you break it down?
Well, I'm the deputy chairman of the club, and currently doing a bit of helping out with administration as the CEO at the same time. So, but I'm one of the lucky ones. I can volunteer to do this job, and and I think when you do this thing because you love it, it's not a job for me. And so, I think for us, you can only build things once. You can't do it twice. And so, I think if we can build this, set at the right scene, and contribute. And, and I think when you're working with good people, they might not have the skills, but they've got the values. You can always upskill someone. can't teach people values. And I think one of the things that it's exciting about working with the whole Solomon Islands Football Federation is the values that they hold as people, as a nation, as a sporting organisation. And they're so willing to learn and listen and be guided. And I think that only makes you a good person. And so I think if we can continue that, and as a football club, as long as we don't lose who we are, and, we're humble when we win, we're humble when we lose, the club will be a success. And I think, ultimately, we want to upskill more administrators out of the Solomon Islands that can run this team. That's when we've achieved everything we want to do.
I know that community is important there with Wynnum Wolves, because all you have to do is look at the impact that a cyclone can have, and you have an entire community come out there, and it's like, all right, what do we need to do? Let's clean things up. Let's dust off. Let's put on our hip waders. What was it, 4 hours where you had 1,000 people, 4 hours, and everything was cleaned up and you were ready to get back to it?
Yeah, we were. I mean, we're. It's really interesting. 2022, we suffered the first flood, which is significant. And, within 4 hours, we had over 1,000 people who cleaned the whole place up. We suffered significant damage, and we thought, okay, let's move on. Then obviously last year in February 2025, Cyclone Alfred, floods. And we thought, here we go again. We've gone through it again. And again, the people just came up. And so I think one thing, the power of football and creating a community culture, it's more than just a football club. It's a place where people feel comfortable, where people feel home, that people can be the best they can be, whether it be playing academy football or I just want to play with my friends, whether you're a male or a female. But I think if you create that sort of safe environment where you can take kids off the streets or out of computers and put them in a sporting environment, I think that's what we've achieved. And, when you look at the growth of this club, this year we'll crack 1,800 players. Over 110 teams we'll have this year, which will make us probably the biggest football club in the country. I do that with people. And we're run, yes, we've got full-time technical people, we've got some full-time administrators, but predominantly our committee is all volunteers. People like myself and others, we give up our time because we, as someone who came to Australia as a migrant, when I came to Australia as an 8-year-old playing and I played rugby league, not football, the football club looked after me. So it became a second home for me. And I think sometimes we've lost that way. I don't know what it's like in America because, sometimes here in Australia, we focus on who's going to be the next professional rather than saying who's going to be the next good person.
Yeah, and what we like to do here at the SDH Network, we are a firm believer that a rising tide lifts all boats. And for us, it's important to tell a story, whether it's around the corner or whether it's 3/4 of the way around the world, because the more that we think we're different, really, the more we're the same. And if we continue to be reminded of those kinds of things, we all get to walk in the same direction and sit there and go, yeah, we are on the right path here. Yeah, we can be there to help out the other person. We can sit there and help grow the game by doing A, B, C, D, or E. And so, that was another reason that we wanted to try and reach out here as a part of this series, is to remind everybody that, yeah, you're not alone in this. And at the same time, you might think you're really far away from those that feel the same way that you do, but you're really not.
I think the hardest thing in life is always to ask for help. The easiest thing is to help someone. And I think sometimes, we get that football connects us in so many different ways. And we're privileged enough here, and I'm privileged enough here to have made a lot of friends through football around the world. Some of the highest profile footballers around the world become friends because they're good people. And I think sometimes we focus on the top level of, whether it be the English Premier League or La Liga or the MLS or the A-League. But I think sometimes we forget that without that, what I would call the heart of football, which is its community, we don't have the professional game. And I think the power of what we can do, just simply talking to you, hopefully your audience will listen a bit more about what happens at our club. I will share with you, there's a documentary that we're releasing very shortly. It's a 15-minute documentary about Wynnum that we've done. The history is, it's very hard to describe an apple if you've never tasted one. So it's very hard to describe this club, which is 105 years old. So we put together a 15-minute documentary, which hopefully will show people what 100 years ago was like to where we are today, and the challenges a club like ours has had, but what it means to a football community. And I think, we'll show that. I'm happy to share that with you, for you to show it on your network, because I think it will tell a story. And I think, for us, the more people that know can go to their sporting club, whether it be football or NFL, it doesn't matter. As long as you're involved in a community sport, we're going to improve as people.
How much has the Wynnum community learned about the Solomon Islands, and how much has the Solomon Islands community learned about Wynnum and what goes on? Since you're 400, 500 miles apart, how much learning has gone on so far?
I think the Wynnum football community has taken the team to its heart, because we share the same colours, we share the love of sport, and I think it's the values and the players. I mean, they're the most humble people you ever want to meet. So I think having them here, train here, being part of us, having similar resources, shared resources, they're not really, they're part of the family, and I think that sort of has been a big part. But it's the same when we go to Solomon's. People have embraced us because I think they see the support and values that we're providing to the Solomon Football Federation and the Solomon Kings.
How far are we talking, geographically, from the 8 franchises as they exist? Was I close with Brisbane to Honiara? How close was
so
it?
let me give it to you. To fly from Brisbane to Honiara, it's 3 hours by plane.
Okay.
To fly from Brisbane to New Zealand, it's 3.5 hours.
Okay.
To go to Fiji, so Brisbane's sort of like in between. So to go from, for example, a lot of the places that Solomon Islands, you have to come to Australia to go to the next country, right? You can't fly direct. So, you have to come to Brisbane to go to Vanuatu. So you've got to come to Brisbane to go to PNG. So there's a whole mix. And that's why, for us being in Brisbane, sort of like a centre hub. But literally you are 3.5 hours by plane to all the hubs, So, and you've got to go through, you need visas and you need passports and you need the whole process. It's not as simple as getting on an airplane.
I was going to ask, when it comes to the logistics of making something like this happen, even though you are doing the hub approach, what are folks not knowing about the things that you have to tackle administratively to make something like this go?
The biggest issue is visas. For example, to go to New Zealand, every Solomon Island player has to get a visa. And you've got to go through a process. Then you've got to go to PNG. Now, the issue will be, if you get an injury, you have to bring another player on. You can't put them on a plane. You've got to get a visa for them. So the travel logistics is probably the biggest challenge. But there's been a lot of work put together by the OFC to work with each of the teams, how we make it work. That's probably been the biggest logistics of how we're going to get there. The other challenge is really, one of the reasons why we've put together a hub for the Solomons here in Brisbane is to get the understanding, travel, work, training, feed, because now we go to the Solomon Islands, and where we go to New Zealand, we've got 3 games in 10 days. So we'll leave Brisbane on a Thursday. We'll have a game on Sunday. We'll have a game on Wednesday, and then we'll have a game on Saturday. And then we fly back to Australia for 3 days and get on a plane again. So I think some of it we're prepared, but some of it you've actually just got to be ready to face when you've got. It's the unknown, but what you can do is just be best prepared that you can be. And look, the biggest challenge is telling people not to panic. There's no use panicking. Focus. Spend all your energy on the problem. And I think that's what we're telling everybody. Don't tell me the problem. Let's work. Let's not talk hours about the problem. What is the problem? Now let's spend the next 3 hours focus on a solution. And I think we're going to have that as we go along. Are we going to get it right along the way? We're going to make mistakes because this is new. But most importantly, we're united in the solution process. And I've got to put the head to, the OFC. They've done a fantastic job. You try to put together a competition from, 8 teams, 6 different countries, bring them together, different languages, it's a big challenge, but they've done a fantastic job. And every game will be broadcast on FIFA Plus.
Then my question is for you, and I ask this in every franchise organization that is launching. I've always asked this question. I know that somewhere in your office, as you and I are talking right now, there's a to-do list. I mean, it could be on a Google Doc. It could be on. Well, I mean, look, I'll show you right here for those that are just on the video side of things. I have the loose leaf binder notebooks with all my assignments and everything. I have the legal pads that have practically. Let's see, I have 7 different designations from you in your past. So you probably end up using like both sides of the business card when I was trying to do my research about everything. So it's a legal pad, it's a wire-bound notebook, it's a Google Doc, or is it one of those 6-foot by 8-foot white dry erase boards that's got a bunch of squiggles and lines and everything? Where is this to-do list that you have there for Solomon Kings, and what's the next thing you think you can cross off of it as you get ready for the premiere?
I think today was the big one, is having every player registered with passports, their medicals, their player contracts, all on the registration system. Now, cutoff point was 5 p.m. today. We finished it at 1 p.m. this afternoon. That was probably the biggest challenge, trying to get that would be the biggest one to get through. That was it. Without having all those players registered in the systems, trying to get passports, valid passports, medicals, that's been a big challenge. But that's the big one. The players are in. We're ready to go. I think there's little bits and pieces coming through. But look, I think the key is, the simple part, getting the playing kit, the training kit. Because recall, we didn't know the team was official till end of September. The players weren't signed until November, early December. In the meantime, we're trying, and then we've got Christmas break. So we've got gear coming everywhere. So the actual playing strip doesn't arrive in Brisbane until Monday. And we leave on Thursday.
Ooh.
So that's the challenge. We've got plan Bs involved, but the reality, I think whether you've got 3 months or you get 12 months or you get 3 days, there's always the last minute things. And I think we've got some really good people that we've been able to break it down. Everyone takes the tasks, because I think if it was left to one person, they'll go crazy. But I think every afternoon we reflect what we've achieved and what we've got next to do. And as I said to you, most important thing is focus on the solution, not the problem.
And make sure that you wash all of the kits and the jerseys in cold before you're out the door on Thursday, before you get to your first match.
Absolutely.
I learned that mistake this week with just my normal laundry. Mr. Krayem, I cannot thank you enough for doing this and opening the door for OFC Pro League. Go to ofcproleague.com. Then you hit the team section. You can do your research and find out about all the 8 individual first teams that are walking in the door with the OFC Pro League. Solomon Kings is where our focus is today. I would like to raise my hand and sit there and go, we'd like to come back and visit as the season goes and kind of just get the progress reports about what you're learning and what everybody's learning and what the education is like and all of those things. So I'd like to raise my hand now and say we'd like to come back. Is that okay?
We would love to give you the update about our journey of where we are, because I think it's an exciting journey and it's a little bit different to most. But yeah, no, we would love to keep you updated of our journey over the next 5 months of how we progress both on and off the field.
Looking forward to it. So as always, my friend, great to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Be safe, and we cannot wait for this thing to get off the ground. Solomon Kings and everything that you're doing there at Wynnum. Can't thank you enough for dropping by.
Just make sure that you're following the black and yellow. That's all we want.